Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Podcast. My name is Griffin. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at AllDayPackers, and I'm joined today by my co-host Bron and Mason. How you doing, Mason?
I'm doing good, Griff. Another week, another Packers win. I couldn't really be happier. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Packer Posts.
All right, how you doing, Bron?
I'm doing great. You can follow me on Instagram at Lambo Leapers.
And today we're going to be talking about the win versus Denver, the upcoming game versus Philly, the offense, the defense, all things Packers. But first, we're going to get into some news. Left guard Lane Taylor was put on injured reserve last week, and he will be having surgery on Tuesday, which means he's likely going to be out for the year. What are your thoughts on this, Mason?
It is unfortunate to lose a starting left guard right away in the season. You kind of like to have that depth in case someone does go down, but I guess this is why we did draft Elgton Jenkins in the second round. You kind of did want him to be able to play and develop, and he's been able to hold his own. He's been doing really good. I saw a stat on Twitter. He only has a 2% pressure rate so far and no sacks allowed. He's really been filling that position really good, and he should probably be getting better as the season goes. So honestly, it's unfortunate that we lost the depth, but Elgton Jenkins should hold in just fine.
I think the thing with Elgton Jenkins is that he's a much better run blocker than Lane Taylor was. I mean, Lane Taylor, like a lot of the Packers linemen over the years, is built for pass protection, especially with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. But I think Elgton Jenkins, being a former center, he's definitely a run blocker in this offense, and it fits the scheme that Matt LaFleur wants to run, that run-heavy scheme, and we've seen it so far. The Packers scored 3 touchdowns last week, and 2 of them were running, and only 1 of them were passing. So that's just an example of the kind of running we want to do with this team, and I think Elgton Jenkins does fit this offense a little bit better than Lane Taylor at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And on that big Jamal Williams run, I think it was 2nd and 12. Elgton Jenkins was the one that opened up that huge hole, and he pushed Jamal Williams over the first down line. He looks a lot better than Lane Taylor was earlier in the year. And I honestly, if Lane Taylor didn't get hurt, Elgton Jenkins would have definitely taken his spot probably by week 6.
And with that, we're going to move to our first topic, the Broncos game, in which we won 27-16. Packers' highest point total of the season. Defense played well. Offense, it's getting there, but there's still some kinks to get out. And
yeah, it was another good win for the Packers. The defense played pretty good. 6 sacks, 3 turnovers. They did their job. Offense was they started out quick, just like the Minnesota game, but kind of disappeared. There was not really much to be excited about. On 3rd down, they went 2 for 9. They got outpossessed by the Broncos by over 10 minutes. Couple of interesting facts. Jamal Williams actually had more carries than Aaron Jones. He outcarried him 12-10. MVS led the team in receiving yards with 99 and a touchdown. Adams only had 4 catches for 56 yards. This game was the first time we kind of saw the defense show a little weakness. Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman we couldn't stop them. It seemed like kept running all over us. They had a total of 38 carries, and their 3rd down rate was 8 for 15. It seemed like we couldn't stop them on the run, but the turnovers literally changed the game. Anytime the defense caused a turnover, the offense was able to capitalize, and that's honestly what won the game for us.
I think the run game has kind of been an issue, so far for the Packers defense. You saw David Montgomery have a really solid first game as a rookie, and then obviously Dalvin Cook, week 2, had a big game for the Vikings. And then this week, that combination of Lindsay and Freeman for the Broncos, they did their job. But the problem with that strategy for the other teams is when they're running the football, and we already came out to a hot start on offense, kind of difficult to turn that into points, and especially it takes time off the clock too. So that's how we kind of win these games, where even when they're running well, when we get off to these hot starts, it makes it difficult for the other team to capitalize on any, positive run game. So I think if we can continue to get off to hot starts, regardless of how well we play on offense over the course of the rest of the game, it kind of eliminates the ability of the run game to help win games for the opposite team.
And that's like a core philosophy of Mike Pettine's. He said it earlier last week. I think he said it's easier to fly to Miami than it is to walk there. I mean, that's just how he is. He's gonna play smaller. He plays a lot of dime personnel on defense. He's gonna let you run on him, as he has in the first 3 weeks. But if that means you're not gonna be able to throw on him, which no one has yet, then he sees that as a win, because you're not gonna win the game by running the football.
It seemed like any time Joe Flacco was forced to throw the ball, it either results in a sack, bad throw, interception. So like anytime we force the other team to have to make a big throw, I feel like our defense puts us in a good spot to win.
Yeah, and the secondary has been playing so well, and especially Jair Alexander, who is just through 3 weeks has been unbelievable. One of, if not the best cornerbacks in football. PFF has him at an 88 coverage grade, which is first amongst corners. He locked up Emmanuel Sanders, who's been having a pretty good season. He locked him up. He was in man coverage against Sanders. Flacco targeted him 3 times, 0 completions. I mean, it's just every week with this guy. You saw the strip of Noah Fant where he just literally ripped the ball out of his arms. He is playing at an unreal level right now.
And Jair so far he's made good on that promise to, take his game to the next level, talking about, all pro and Pro Bowl this offseason, best corner in the league he's been talking about, and he's kind of achieving that so far this season. At least he's playing it like the best corner in football, and he's not letting anybody get past him, whether it's Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson. Nobody's going to be able to beat this guy in coverage, especially in man coverage. So it's exciting that the Packers have that corner who's legitimately a top 10 talent in the NFL. And it's just, he's the leader of our secondary in the locker room and on the field, and he's playing like it too.
The one thing is the interceptions, which those are going to come. He's going to learn to start catching those picks, and once he does, he's going to make the Pro Bowl. He's going to be recognized amongst the best because he's always in the right spot. He's always in the hip pocket of the receiver he's covering. So those picks are going to start coming, and the turnovers, like you saw on Sunday, those are going to start coming up with lower variance.
And regardless, he leads the league right now in passes broken up. So I think he has 6 in the first 3 games, which is ridiculous. He had 11 last year total. So he's just playing really well right now, and leading the defense for us in the back end, along with those boys, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, who had his first pick last week, Kevin King on the other side playing well. So it's just great because we have great coverage in the back end, and then our pass rush is doing great things as well.
And like we said on the podcast last week, Kevin King was kind of shaky. Cortland Sutton played a very good game against him. But like we said on the podcast, Joe Flacco's not going to have enough time to throw to Cortland Sutton. He's not going to have enough time to get through his reads because Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith tore it up on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a great game by the defensive line. Preston Smith recorded 3 sacks and a forced fumble. He's actually surpassed what he did in 2018. He only had 4 sacks, and this year in 3 games he's already at 4.5. And on the other side, Zadarius had 2, and rookie Rashawn Gary recorded his first career sack. And just in general, it was a great game by the defensive line.
Yeah, and in a game where Montravius Adams was inactive, he's been the starter in base personnel up to this point. We saw Mike Pettin really get creative with his defensive fronts, especially on 3rd down. We had packages with both the Smiths, Rashawn Gary, and Kenny Clark up and down the line, which is just, what do you do as a quarterback, as an offensive coordinator? What do you do against that? Because they're all in the backfield consistently.
Yeah, and we were in the backfield consistently against Broncos offensive line, who had Juwan James inactive and had lost Matt Paradis last season, in free agency. So it's a suspect offensive line in Denver. And when we're able to rush 4 guys like that and get consistent pressure, allowing the secondary to do its job, it makes it a lot easier for the defense to get the job done and get the Packers offense back on the field.
Yeah, speaking of the offense, it kind of had its ups and downs this week. We got to see a little vintage Aaron Rodgers and the offsides free play to MVS. Those are always nice to see. But then after that, we kind of, the offense was able to capitalize on turnovers that gave us some good field position. But other than that, it was a lot of failed 3rd downs and just a lot of J.K. Scott punts. But what do you guys think of the offense?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty frustrating overall. It was like a lot of more of the same. We couldn't really get the ground game going. Not everyone was in sync in the passing game. We put up 27 points, which is good, but a lot of that came off turnovers created by the defense, which gave us good field position, which is good. We should definitely be taking advantage of those short fields. But I'd like to see a little more cohesion as a unit from the offense.
I mean, there's a lot of positives you can take away from the game too. The fact that Rodgers even talked about it after the game, how he had one of his cleanest jerseys he's had in years from the pass protection that we had against the Broncos, who, like we've said multiple times, and that's been the theme of this game. Those two pass rushers, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, coming off the edge. So I think with those two guys, we're able to contain them and the rest of the Broncos defense, in terms of pass protection. I think that was definitely a positive. You saw MVS have a pretty decent game. He had some drops here and there, but he did have that, that touchdown, a couple other nice catches. Adams, he played an okay game, but we'd like to see him get more targets. And Jimmy Graham, again, did not have a catch in this game. And that's a bit concerning because we'd like to use the tight end position a little bit more. And, if Jimmy Graham, he has a lot of health concerns right now, a couple different issues, his groin, his quad. So, and Mercedes Lewis is not going to be able to catch multiple balls per game for this Packers offense. So without Jimmy Graham producing, it's going to be a tough road ahead for the offense if we're going to have to be forced to throw to MVS, Devontae Adams, and Geronimo Allison alone.
Yeah, on Twitter today, I always am just scrolling through all the threads after the game, and people are really kind of, pointing fingers at Jimmy Graham, his lack of blocking skills. He doesn't really fit the offense, and it's kind of concerning paying him $10 million a year to play tight end, and he just really, it just doesn't seem like he fits the Matt LaFleur scheme.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jimmy Graham isn't even the starting tight end right now. If you look at the snap counts, Mercedes Lewis played 7 more snaps than Jimmy Graham did. It's kind of been that way all year. Clearly, the coaching staff just sees him as a big wide receiver, as they should, because whenever they put him in line and have him block someone, it is just atrocious. And it's not even the lack of talent with Jimmy. It's the lack of effort, which is just so frustrating to see this guy, a veteran tight end making $10 million, just not give 100% on these blocking assignments.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they haven't been losing since early in the game versus Chicago. So I think they're doing a lot of running the football, and that's not his job to be a blocker. That's just not what he does in this offense. So, I mean, you have to attribute a lot of the fact that he wasn't playing last week as much as Mercedes Lewis to the fact that he had a couple injuries that he's nursing, and that we were ahead for the entire game, and that we're not passing as much downfield where we would utilize him.
Yeah, we did definitely see a lot of running on Sunday. A lot of power running. We saw Jamal Williams in the game a lot more than Aaron Jones. And I think a lot of that is due to the short week.
Yeah, we got the Eagles on the schedule this Thursday. They're coming off a loss to the Lions. It was kind of brutal. They did have a last second kind of effort. Came up short. They lost at home. They're 1-2 right now with the win against the 0-3 Redskins, and then a loss to the 1-2 Falcons, and obviously a loss to the 2 0-1 Lions. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Starting wide receivers Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are most likely out on Thursday, and also starting quarterback Ronald Darby is looking like he's not going to be playing Thursday. So a big opportunity for the Packers, and hopefully we can, capitalize on the injuries and start off 4-0.
I think, the defensive matchup that we have versus the Eagles, that Eagles offense with Carson Wentz it's looking good for us right now, because the secondary, playing as well as it isn't going to be facing a deep threat into Deshaun Jackson, possibly Alshon Jeffrey. He could play, but he's still limited right now, so it's to be seen if he'll play. But, just not facing those guys is going to be big for the secondary and obviously create more pressure on the other end. But, I like the offensive matchup as well without that cornerback, Ronald Darby, who he hasn't played great so far this year, and last season he has not played great. So they're very, very thin in the secondary right now, especially on that cornerback spot. So I think we can take advantage. Our matchups do kind of give us the advantage in some spots where we can really take advantage and win the game.
And if any of you guys were worried about Devontae Adams' production not really being at where it was last year, I honestly think this is the week he is about to go off. If you want to look at the wide receiver ones for the past 3 opponents the Eagles have played, they have absolutely torn the Eagles secondary up. Week 1, Terry McLaurin, rookie, his first ever game, he had 5 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Week 2, when they played Atlanta, Julio Jones went off for 5 catches, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And also, wide receiver 2 for that team, Calvin Ridley, had 8 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. And last week, Marvin Jones on the Lions had 6 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. So if you've been a little bit worried that Devontae hasn't really been being targeted and not having a lot of catches, and he doesn't even have a touchdown yet, I honestly think this is the week he goes off.
And this has been with Ronald Darby on the field for the Eagles. So with him off, their top corner is Sidney Jones right now, and I think Adams is going to have a huge day, like you said, Mason.
Yeah, and if we think Devontae Adams is going to have his breakout game of the season, that means Aaron Rodgers is probably going to have his too, and I think this is the perfect matchup for him against a banged-up Philly defense. I think this is the game that we start to see a lot of the LaFleur offense. It's where I think it's all going to start coming together.
And you feel like LaFleur has this one circled on his schedule just a little bit because this is a primetime game. You know, everybody's watching, and this is the one where it's a big NFC team, former Super Bowl champion of the last 3 years. So I think this is a game that he has definitely marked on his calendar as one that we have to come out and win, as a booster for not only, our record, but our chances when it comes down to playoff time.
Yeah, and this matchup kind of has playoff implications. The Eagles did make the playoffs last year. We were able to knock off the Bears, and in 2017, they won the Super Bowl. So they're able to turn their season around. They could, honestly, a win here could help us with seeding once it comes playoff time.
Yeah, and a loss here would make them 1-3. So, they're a desperate team, which makes them a dangerous team, especially with Carson Wentz, a bona fide top 10 quarterback at the helm of the Eagles. Despite their weapons, he's a great player, and he's going to help them, score some points regardless. So I think they're definitely a dangerous team. And, coming into Lambeau, we definitely have to take care of business there. That way it not only helps us with those playoff implications, but, we get the job done against a team we should beat.
And with that, we're going to move into if we win, if we lose, talking about factors that would cause us to win, what would cause us to lose. So, Bron, if we were to win, what would it be because of?
Yeah, I think if we win, it'll be because Aaron Rodgers took advantage of the depleted Eagles team that we're seeing here. The Ronald Darby injury and, the Eagles wide receiver injuries. I think the Packers have to take advantage of, the holes in their team, and we should win this game because a banged up team like this, considering how healthy we are, I think we should win this game, and it'll be because we take advantage.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bron. I'm kind of looking at Aaron Rodgers here. I really do feel like this game has shootout potential. Carson Wentz is the best quarterback we've played so far, honestly, by far. There is a chance he puts up more than 16 points, and I feel like Aaron Rodgers has to get things going with this offense. I would love to see it. I would love for the Packers offense to be able to, play better than we have these first 3 weeks for the rest of the season, and I feel like it starts right here with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just hoping he's able to get things going and outscore Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I agree with the both of you. I think if we're going to win this game, it's definitely going to be because the offense finally comes together and puts together a complete game, because I don't think we're going to be able to hold Carson Wentz in the Eagles offense to under 16 like we have all 3 weeks so far. So we're definitely going to have to put it together on offense, play with a little more urgency, and take advantage of an injured defense.
And if we were to lose this game, what do you think it'd be because of?
Yeah, just like the Broncos game, I really don't expect the Packers to, have trouble with the Eagles. We're at home again. The Eagles are struggling. But if there was one thing I'd blame a loss on, it'd probably just be our really wacky schedule we've had so far. We've had a Thursday night game, very extended wait to the next Sunday when we played the Vikings, and then a normal week. And now we're back on a Thursday. I just don't know if maybe the Packers players aren't really adjusted. They haven't really had a steady schedule, but that'd be really the only reason I see us losing. Maybe some players just aren't adjusted and ready to go by Thursday.
Well, I think we have it a little bit better than the Eagles, considering we haven't had to do much traveling over the course of this little break in the schedule where we go, Vikings, Broncos, and then Eagles at home. I mean, I consider that to be kind of a bit of a blessing in between a weird, wacky schedule, like you said. So, hopefully we can kind of take advantage of the fact that the Eagles have to come in here, and travel after a loss to the Lions. So, but yeah, definitely that would become an issue if the players aren't adjusted to the schedule.
If we were to lose, I think it would definitely be because the offense isn't able to put together a complete game. And, they've been struggling the first 3 weeks, and a lot of people are saying, well, 3 top 5 defenses in a row, which, yeah, that's a valid point. And if they're not able to play better against such an injured and poor defense that's allowed 24 plus in all 3 of their games this season, then I think that would be really telling of where they're at right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Griffin. And I believe if we were to lose this game, it'd be because that Eagles pass rush, which really is one of their only kind of healthy spots and one of their best, units on their team, with Timmy Jernigan, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. I think if that pass rush comes and gets us a little bit, gets the offensive line, I think we could struggle a bit on offense. And like Griffin said, if we can't score more points than these other teams did against them, I think that is telling of what our offense is like right now and where we need to be moving forward.
All right, so before we recorded, I put on my Instagram story asking for some fan questions, and we're going to answer some of those. First one here from @JackDeucer. How do you see the back half of the season going? What's the key to winning the road games?
Yeah, the back half of the season is pretty tough for the Packers. It's pretty road heavy because we play most of our home games in the front half. But, looking at it, we do have. I don't like calling games gimmies, but we do play teams like the Redskins at home, the Giants on the road, the Panthers right now without Cam Newton. Who knows if he'd be back by week 10? But we play the Panthers at home. There are some games that are winnable, but yeah, like the last 2 games at Minnesota, at Detroit, it is pretty tough. But as of right now, we're 3-0. It's been a great start to the season. This is exactly what we needed. We need to win our home games, steal a couple on the road, and if things get tough down the stretch, those wins will, help propel us into playoff contention.
Yeah, and in that back half of the season, having these 3 wins is going to be huge in terms of we're getting big wins against divisional opponents right now. Even with the multitude of home games we have early on here, putting us in a tough position when it comes to the back end and the road games, I think the momentum we'll have is going to propel us to getting wins later in the season. And even on those road games, we'll be playing our best on offense, our best on defense, because we'll have gotten a lot of playing time, cohesion under our belt, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense will continue to get better and play better. So I think we'll be playing at our best when those road games do come, and it'll be advantageous for us.
Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about how our road games come later in the year while our home games are early. So it does kind of take away the frozen tundra advantage away from Lambeau Field. But I think it's pretty helpful that a lot of the tougher offenses we're going to face are coming later down the season when our offense is going to have time to work out the kinks against Joe Flacco and Kirk Cousins and Mitch Trubisky. Because those are quarterbacks and offenses that our defense is going to shut down pretty easily as they have, and our offense isn't going to have to score more than 27 or 21 or 10 points. So I think it's helpful that the games where our offense is really going to have to play well and maybe win in a shootout, we're going to have time in between them to work out the kinks. All right, this next question here from @WillRamage. How do you think Kyler Fackrell can put into the defense? He had 10.5 sacks, so he's a good weapon.
I mean, he doesn't get on the field very much with the Smith brothers out there, and plus Rashawn Gary, the first-round pick. So, I mean, he's on the field in, some obvious passing situations. I mean, it's difficult with Kyler Fackrell because, with the Smith brothers there and Rashawn Gary there, who actually, for the first time outplayed Kyler Fackrell in terms of snaps. So I think it's going to be difficult for him to see the field apart from some obvious passing situations where he can either, go down into coverage, which he's been good at, or he can rush the passer in a heavy blitz package. So, I mean, looking at him, he's not going to see the field much. There's no way he gets 10.5 sacks again. That was kind of by default based on how much playing time he was seeing. So I just think he's not going to be able to have that same kind of production with the players in front of him.
Yeah, Bron, Fackrell did have the 10.5 sacks last year, but already this year, Preston and Za'Darius have combined for more pressures than Kyler did all of last year. So And we signed the Smith brothers for a lot of money, both of them being paid a lot to rush the passer, and they both produced more than Fackrell did. They're probably going to end up with more sacks than he did, and it's just more beneficial to have the Smith out there. Fackrell is a great rotational player, don't get me wrong. If he's your third or fourth edge rusher, you really can't complain. You're in a good spot defensively, but him just being out there on pass rushing downs and just rotational situations when he needs to go in, it's just nice to have somebody that has the experience and can get to the quarterback.
All right, this next question here from @Damayalo1. Should the Packers pick up recently cut Michael Crabtree? This is something I've seen a lot from Packer fans. The fact that we haven't seen a lot of production from anyone not named Vontae Adams or Marquez Valdez. It would be beneficial for the Packers to look at other options at wide receiver. I don't know if Michael Crabtree is the way to go. I don't know how many snaps he has left in him, but I don't think it's a bad idea for the Packers to explore other options at receiver, whether that be by trade or sign someone. I don't know who's available right now, but I think they definitely need another body at receiver because Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a deep threat. He hasn't really shown to be much more than that. He doesn't have the strong hands to make catches through contact right now. He can obviously take the top of a defense, but I think we need another player who can be reliable on a 3rd and short or something like that. Geronimo Allison, we thought was going to be that guy. He hasn't had a great start to the season. Jimmy Graham has been nowhere to be found since that touchdown catch in Chicago. So I either think Geronimo and MVS need to be better, more reliable options at receiver, or I would not be against the Packers trading for someone. You said Michael Crabtree. I don't think that's a good way to go. But in terms of receiver help, I definitely wouldn't be against that.
Yeah, and I think an underrated loss that we had this season to injury was Equanimeous St. Brown. I mean, I had high hopes for him coming into this season. He showed a lot of promise. He showed his wide catch radius and his playmaking ability. And I think that really was a big loss because after Geronimo Allison and MVS, it's kind of gloomy right now in terms of the Packers receivers. So do they make the move for Michael Crabtree? I highly doubt it. It doesn't make much sense. He's not a guy that is going to make plays for the Green Bay Packers at this stage in his career right now. People also bring up Des Bryant. I kind of think it's a similar thing. I mean, it's a flashy name. It would look nice on paper, but I just don't know where he's at right now in terms of his football ability. So I think it would have to be some kind of trade for a young receiver who's maybe not getting playing time right now. And, things like that always happen. There's always players who want more playing time or aren't getting utilized or, teams just looking to ship guys out because they have an extra guy. So I think if Brian Gutekunst thinks it's necessary or Matt LaFleur, approaches Brian and says, we need some help at the position, they'll figure something out. But I don't think a veteran guy is the way to go right now based on who's available.
Yeah, if the Packers were looking to trade for a veteran wide receiver, there's honestly two I could think of right now. One we just played, Emmanuel Sanders. After the game, he was kind of saying how he's living in a world of suck right now. The Broncos haven't really been good in a couple of years. They started off 0-3. He seems very unhappy. He only caught 2 balls against the Packers for only 10 yards. And, he's a slot wide receiver. It's something the Packers don't really have. We lost Randall Cobb. Our slot receivers are pretty young, pretty unexperienced. Darius Shepard hasn't really seen any offensive snaps. I don't know if Geronimo and MVS are pretty big for a slot receiver, so Emmanuel Sanders could honestly be a realistic possibility. And another one that would be kind of crazy, like a former top 10 wide receiver, AJ Green is also in the last year of his deal. We know how good AJ Green is. He's been ridiculous his whole career, has dealt with injuries, also probably has a desire to win. The Bengals have not really been good the whole time he's been there. And he would just be a crazy addition to the wide receiver group.
Yeah, and they've kind of had success without him being there right now, as he's injured. Tyler Boyd and John Ross have come up and played well. The team hasn't played great, but they're getting production on offense, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just think the Packers are kind of desperate right now for another body at a skill position. Maybe that can be Jay Sternberger when he's eligible to return. He's on IR right now. We don't really know what we have in him still. 3rd-round pick, a lot of talent, but he was hurt through a lot of training camp and a lot of the preseason. So maybe when he comes back, he can bring something to the offense. Robert Tonyan hasn't been getting a ton of playing time. Dan Vitale, as we saw on Sunday, he caught that wheel route from the backfield, which was great play design. I think if we can exploit more mismatches like that with Dan Vitale, make the defense play in heavier packages, like we see Kyle Shanahan do with Juszczyk in San Francisco. I think we just need some kind of other production from someone who's not Devontae Adams or Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
All right, and that'll do it for episode 2 of the Today in Titletown podcast. From me, Bron, and Griffin, go Pack, go.